The Sunday Vicarage Circle, a Chesterton circle of blame. A satirical tale in the style of Tom Sharpe, examining how different groups blame each other for economic problems while the real beneficiaries remain hidden. Sunday morning, Father Brown's sermon. The bells of St. Mary's had barely finished their melodious complaint when Father Brown stepped into the pulpit, his round face bearing that peculiar expression of gentle bewilderment that masked considerable insight. "My dear parishioners," he began, adjusting his spectacles, "today I wish to speak about what I call the circle of blame, that curious dance we perform when confronted with the mysteries of our economic condition." The congregation settled into their pews with the resigned patience of those about to receive wisdom they weren't entirely sure they wanted. The circle begins to turn. "Consider," Father Brown continued, "how each group in our society points an accusing finger at another, like children caught in some grand mischief, each claiming innocence while pointing elsewhere. The farmers blame the bankers. These money lenders strangle us with their interest rates. How can we plant when gold costs more than grain? The bankers blame the politicians. We merely follow the regulations imposed upon us, blame those who set the rules of this game. The politicians blame the voters. We give the people what they demand, low taxes and high benefits. Mathematics cannot satisfy such contradictions. The voters blame the press. How can we choose wisely when fed only sensation and scandal? The press blame the advertisers. We print what sells papers, blame those who pay our bills. The advertisers blame the consumers. We merely respond to market desires. People want what they want. The consumers blame the system. Everything is rigged against the common man. And the system, that great abstraction, blames human nature. People are naturally greedy and short-sighted. What else can one expect? Sunday afternoon, the public house dialogue. After the service, the congregation retired to the Lamb and Flag, where Father Brown found himself in conversation with some rather unexpected guests who had materialized for the occasion. Maimonides stroked his beard thoughtfully. "The perplexed seek simple answers to complex questions, Father, yet observe how each group speaks truth about symptoms while missing the disease itself." Pelagius leaned forward with bright conviction. "Each blames the other for choices freely made. But where is the acknowledgement of individual moral responsibility within these systemic constraints?" Rumi laughed, his eyes twinkling. "The beloved sees through all these veils. The usurer and the usured are one in the mirror of divine justice. Look beyond the forms." William Blake spoke with prophetic fire. "I see the marriage of heaven and hell in your economics. The lamb and the tiger both serve the divine purpose, but which serves mammon?" Alexander Del Mar consulted his ledgers. "Gentlemen, the science of money reveals that monetary manipulation has been the hidden hand behind every crisis for centuries." Ezra Pound added reluctantly, "The ABC of economics is simple. Usury corrupts everything it touches. But who profits from this corruption?" Sunday evening, the vicarage tea. As evening fell, the assembled company gathered in Father Brown's modest parlor for tea and further discussion. Mrs. McCarthy had outdone herself with a traditional Sunday roast, and now served tea with her usual efficiency. "The fascinating thing," Father Brown observed, stirring his tea, "is how perfectly this circle of blame functions. Each group's complaint against the others is substantially correct." G.K. Chesterton suddenly materialized in the corner armchair. It was his essay being discussed, after all. "Precisely, Father. The key fact in the new development of plutocracy is that it will use its own blunder as an excuse for further crimes. The very completeness of the impoverishment becomes the reason for enslavement. The hidden beneficiaries revealed. But who, asked Father Brown quietly, benefits from this circular firing squad? The room fell silent as the realization dawned like a cold sunrise. The usurers, those who create money as debt and collect interest upon it, benefit from every aspect of the circle of blame. When farmers borrow, they profit. When banks need bailouts, they profit. When governments issue bonds, they profit. When consumers use credit, they profit. When corporations financialize, they profit. The circle of blame serves to obscure this fundamental reality, that a system based on interest, bearing debt mathematically, requires exponential growth to service compound interest, making periodic crises inevitable. The four voices of wisdom. As the evening deepened, four distinct perspectives emerged from the discussion. Maimonides offered the philosophical view. The Guide for the Perplexed teaches us that apparent contradictions often point to deeper truths. Your circle of blame is not a malfunction, it is the system. It functions perfectly to prevent examination of foundational assumptions about money creation. Pelagius provided the moral perspective. Free will exists within constraints. Each participant in this circle chooses their response, yet the system itself constrains those choices. The question is whether we will choose to see beyond the circle. Rumi danced with mystical insight. All separation is illusion. The creditor and debtor are one soul looking in a mirror. When the heart awakens, the circle dissolves into laughter. William Blake thundered prophetically, I see the dark satanic mills of financial abstraction grinding the faces of the poor. But I also see Jerusalem being built in England's green and pleasant land when usury is cast out. Father Brown's resolution. My dear friends, Father Brown concluded, the mystery is solved not by finding the guilty party, but by recognizing that the crime itself is the misdirection. While everyone argues about symptoms, the disease thrives in darkness. He paused to sip his tea. The circle of blame is perfect theatre, a grand performance that keeps all the actors so busy playing their roles that none notice the director counting profits in the wings. The deeper mystery. But here, Father Brown continued with a gentle smile, we encounter the deeper mystery, for even the usurers are trapped within their own creation. They have built a system that must grow exponentially or collapse, and exponential growth on a finite planet is impossible. They are prisoners of their own design. Chesterton nodded approvingly. The plutocrats have created their own utopia of usurers, but like all utopias, it contains the seeds of its own destruction. Epilogue. The continuing circle. As the evening ended and the mysterious guests faded back into the realm of ideas from whence they came, Father Brown reflected on the day's discussions. The circle of blame would continue to spin, he knew, serving its true purpose, ensuring that fundamental questions about the nature of money, debt, and interest remained safely outside the bounds of polite conversation. But perhaps, he thought, lighting his pipe in the gathering dusk, a few souls might step outside the circle entirely and ask the truly dangerous question, what if money need not be created as debt at all? The answer to that question, he mused, would indeed be revolutionary. The moral of the tale. The circle of blame functions as a perfect system of misdirection, allowing the fundamental beneficiaries of systemic usury to remain invisible while everyone else argues about secondary effects. As Chesterton observed, the plutocracy uses its own failures as justification for further control, while the real crime, the creation of money as interest-bearing debt, continues unchallenged. The solution lies not in winning the blame game, but in stepping outside the circle entirely to examine the monetary system itself. For as Father Brown might say, the greatest mysteries are often hidden in plain sight, and the most obvious questions are the ones no one thinks to ask. The Vicarage Circle. In the style of G.K. Chesterton, Father Brown stirred his tea, peering over the rim of his spectacles at the unlikely assembly in his vicarage. Maimonides with his furrowed brow, Pelagius tapping restless fingers, Rumi's eyes half closed in contemplation, and William Blake sketching furious angels on the vicarage wallpaper. Ezra Pound clutched the ABC of economics, while Alexander Del Mar brandished the science of money like a shield. At the center lay Chesterton's Utopia of Usurers, its pages splayed like a wounded bird. The blame begins. Pelagius spoke first, jabbing a finger at Blake's smudged sketch of a factory-chained seraph. Man's fall is his own doing. Free will demands responsibility, not this usury that cages souls in debt. Chesterton saw it. Capitalism atomizes men into lonely specks. Maimonides countered, smoothing his beard. Nonsense. Divine law forbids exploitation, yet your free will ignores structural sin. The circle of blame starts when the poor blame the rich blame the state, and the state blames human nature, while usurers profit 12. Ezra Pound slammed his book. Del Mar's Roman moneys prove it. Debasement is tyranny's tool. But you theologians miss the root. It's not free will or fate hates the system. Chesterton knew too much capitalism means too few capitalists. 34. Rumi sighed, swirling his tea. This blame is a whirlpool. You point to symptoms, debt, inequality. But the disease is disconnection from the divine. Usury feeds on the illusion that wealth is real, not pearls cast to weeds. The garden paradox. William Blake interrupted, stabbing his charcoal at the window. Look, the garden high above casts pearls to our weeds. Chesterton's plutocratic appeal to science, eugenics, efficiencies the new serpent. They call greed progress while breaking families. 15. Alexander Del Mar nodded grimly. Roman emperors did the same. When Tiberius drained the treasury, he blamed foreigners. Now central bankers blame market forces while creating scarcity. The circle spins, but the gold always sticks to their fingers. Father Brown set down his cup with a clink. Gentlemen, you've all diagnosed the plague but missed the vector. Pelagius blames weakness. Maimonides blames lawlessness. Pound blames systems. Rumi blames spiritlessness. Blake blames modernity. Yet Chesterton's essay reveals the true beneficiary, the usurer who profits when we fight each other. He opened Utopia of Usurers to a dog-eared page. The plutocratic appeal to science is the new superstition. While you debate who broke the vase, the man who sold you glue grows rich. 14. The unmasking. A silence fell. Outside, the vicarage garden glowed pearls of dew on thistles, roses choked by bindweed. Pound muttered. Del Mar's history shows usurers manufacture crises. They lend in boom, foreclose in bust, then blame human nature. Blake added softly, and my Jerusalem is paved with their receipts. They've made money a god worshipped by atheist and zealot alike. Father Brown stood, gathering the books. Precisely. The circle of blame is the usurer's finest trick. The socialist blames the capitalist blames the regulator blames the people all, while the moneylender laughs. Chesterton's warning? Break the circle by seeing the strings. He placed Chesterton's book in the center. The solution isn't in blame, but in Chesterton's distributism. Ownership for all, families rooted in land, money as a tool not a master, otherwise we're manual crying K, while the estate burns. Why the blame circle endures? Blamer target of blame actual beneficiary socialists, capitalists bankers, capitalists regulators, speculators, moralists, human weakness loan, sharks technocrats, inefficiency monopolists. The usurer's greatest triumph? Convincing the world that debt is destiny and blame its own. Father Brown? Probably. Epilogue. As twilight fell, Rumi whispered, "The garden's pearls are for weeds, but weeds become roses when uprooted from usury's shadow." And Blake sketched a final angel hammer in hand, shattering a banker's scales.